Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mortgage Tech Talks. We were just chatting just before this, trying to think of some nicknames for us so I could come in and be, hey, your host, and we couldn't think of any. So it's just going to be Tom and Massimo today. We talked about,
Put it in the comments if you think of any.
oh yeah, we were talking about this a couple, I think, episodes ago, and you were talking about your nicknames. We still don't got them. So yeah, we're waiting for someone's first comment. Maybe that's like the challenge, right? It's like if you are the first person to comment, we will use that nickname for at least 4 episodes. I don't care how ridiculous it is, as long as it's not profane, we'll use it. So if you can think of some
And
ridiculous nickname, throw it in the comments
just to
and we will use it. We will use
just to be clear, it's the first comment on this episode. We have had
it.
thousands of comments already. So yeah, it would just be
Yeah.
on this episode. Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know why I never got nicknames. I guess I wasn't very cool. Or do you have to be uncool to get nicknames, maybe? I don't know.
I think it's
Uh,
like the two extremes, like all things. Like if you're in the middle, you don't really get a nickname, but if you're very uncool or very cool, then you'll get some. Right? I think
okay. That
that's how it
that
goes.
that sums up my life. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
What,
Yeah.
middle of the road?
Yeah.
Mediocrity?
Media. Okay, now I'm gonna start crying. But anyways, all right, let's do this.
Well, let's get right into it. It's enough rambling. People want to get to people want the good stuff. They don't want to hear us just talk about nothing. So
Yeah.
today we're going to talk about it's something we talked about I think a little bit kind of in passing, but we wanted to dedicate a proper episode to it. And the question we're trying to answer today is, hey, should I build my own software product? So that's the question, and that can take a lot of different forms. It could be, hey, I want to build a software product just for me, just because, hey, the systems out there aren't good enough. Hey, maybe I want to build something for my brokerage, something proprietary, or hey, maybe I want to build something because I see an opportunity in the market and I want to maybe try it out in my business first, work through all the kinks, get it there, and then hey, maybe I can actually go and do something with it. So that question takes a lot of different forms, and we'll unpack them all. But maybe just to start, I guess why ask this question? I mean, are a lot of people out there asking this question? Is it a common thing? What do you see when you're kind of chatting with people? Is this something that comes up frequently?
It comes up more than you would think, and I mean, it depends on the person, obviously, their thoughts. I would wager that some people are biased towards one or the other, depending on how long they've been in the industry and what they've seen. But I guess, I mean, in general, it's fun to build things. It's attractive to build things in the sense that, like, it's my thing.
Hmm.
I've
There's like
built
a
it.
little bit of almost like pride there, right? It's like, hey,
Yeah,
I haven't built it. Yeah.
just joking with Tom earlier about some ad I saw and how I thought I could do better than that person in a career. And like all things, it's not as easy as it sounds or seems. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But yeah, people do ask it. And I mean, at the end of the day, at least the motivation I see, I'm curious yours, is why a lot of people want that is they might have edge cases or they want to be unique in their business and they just want control. That's usually, they feel like they have a lack of control if they don't build it.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that a bit. It's not fully true. I mean, by definition, if you don't build it, I think you automatically have less control. But that's usually what I hear from people. Like, it's not mine, so I can't guide where it goes. I can't guide how it changes.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big one. I think pride's a big one. We've seen that, but I think also it's people see opportunity. I think it's all the above, right? I think there's a lot of reasons for it. So why don't we get into just, just to prove we're not crazy, that this is something we've seen a bunch, maybe some, specific examples that we've seen. So one, I guess, of those categories that we're talking about is kind of and I'll start here, is on the brokerage side of things. So a lot of brokerages, well, a few, maybe not a lot, maybe not every brokerage, but quite a few brokerages, and especially the ones we know, really view building their own software almost as a proprietary competitive advantage, right? So if a brokerage is able to build a software that makes one of their agents their life easier, it then becomes easier to recruit those agents. And so off the top of our head, we know brokerage here in Toronto, they've kind of built their own version of a submission platform. We know a really big brokerage out west, they've kind of built their own proprietary payroll software and compliance software that's really impressive, at least from what I understand of it. And we even know another brokerage locally, they've built something on Salesforce, their own version of a CRM, and they've kind of white labeled it and made their own. And they're using it almost as a competitive advantage. Hey, we're a tech forward brokerage. This is a tool that if you become an agent, you'll be able to use out of the box. And they end up paying quite a bit of money for that, and we'll get into it. But yeah, so right off the top, there's three pretty concrete examples in different areas. So it's a little bit of all those factors we talked about, but on the brokerage side, it's very much so, hey, if I build this tool, it's like, hey, if it's the old phrase, if I build it, they will come, right? If I can build something, differentiate on tech, which is such a buzzword these days, then agents will want to respond and use this technology and join my brokerage for that reason.
And I'm curious, like what you've heard some of those guys you're talking about. I mean, we both know them all. Would you say it's successful for them in general? Like, I haven't talked to many of these guys to be honest, but
Yeah, I mean, in these specific examples, is it successful? It depends how you measure it. I mean, I guess that's a bit of a cop-out answer, isn't it? I don't know.
no, but
The,
maybe you don't know with these
well,
guys. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so one I can think of right off the top, the one who did their own submission platform, it's too
right.
early to tell.
Yeah,
The one who did their own payroll software, that's been successful. I think
yeah,
from nothing else other than their internal operations, they have hundreds of agents and they're pretty slick with their payroll. So if it's not a recruiting tool, it's a tool for their internal team, right? It's paid off. And then the third one, which is they've made their own CRM, which is something obviously we very near and dear to our heart. I think that's been more of a failure. I don't want to um, put anyone down or anything. I don't know the specifics of it, but if I had to guess, and the reason I say that just from what we know is a lot of those agents have actually come and used Blue, right? So, hey, I could have this, what it was supposed to be a very technologically advanced CRM out of the box, ready to go. I don't have to pay a cent for it. People are more willing, and their whole brokerage is saying, use it, use it, use it, use it. They're saying, I'm going to not use it. I'm going to pay extra money. I'm going to get my own system just because,
yeah,
it has that many more capabilities. So that one I think is more, but maybe again, we're just a little bit biased.
yeah. And I
So
mean,
it's
the
hit or miss, right? It's hit or miss.
often the pitch I think from these brokerages is just like they understand that there's a bit of a barrier to get moving in the broker world. Like if I just become an agent, I pass my test. Okay, now I need a website. Okay, now I need strategies on how to follow up. Now I need reports. Now I need follow-ups when a mortgage closes, etc. And these brokerages understand that if they can reduce those barriers and just say, "Hey, give me $60 a month for this tool that I built," now the agent can have a sigh of relief. They can just focus on mortgages. So I get the pitch.
Right.
Like you said, it's not always done properly. I don't even know if any of these or all of these brokerages charge their agents for it. I think a lot of them do, or they make it part of a
Well, I think it just
package or
depends
something.
again, right? Like the payroll thing, it's like I'm not charging you because that's actually making my life easier.
Yeah,
Right?
true.
So why would
Yeah,
I
yeah,
charge you? Whereas, and then for the submission platform one, this is kind of a more sinister, not sinister, but sneaky, which is that maybe they're not charging, but they get, we talked about this on a previous episode, where they get fees, right? So they're using Filogics as pipes or whatever, and so they get some of that origination fee. So it's really kind of the evolution of something how like Boss or Velocity has evolved, which is it started out with brokerages, then went to a network. Hey, use our tool to submit your deals. Hey, it's going to be easier, but also on the back end, the brokerage is going to see a benefit for it. And I think the other way that it's hit or miss too, I think it also depends on the agent that they're going after, right? So I think if it's a brand new agent who's like, bright-eyed and just wants to get going and doesn't have time to figure out all these things, it's great. But for that 10-year broker who's savvy, who knows the business, who knows the ins and outs, who knows the tech, who knows everything, they're going to do their own thing no matter what. So I think
yeah.
it's also, hey, if you're a brokerage, you think about these types of things, what kind of brokers are you going after? Are you going after what Scott would call, Scott Peckford, those rookie agents, or are you going for, hey, the more senior agents, or are you trying to do a bit of both? How are you pitching it? And that can kind of determine, or at least guide you on where to focus in your tech and how you can be successful.
We've seen it at a brokerage level, just to give you guys a bit more color as well. We've seen it on a team level too.
Right.
So like individual teams, I can give some like concrete examples, like Finmo, the app that a lot of you know and love and use, started in a brokerage or sorry, and actually a team.
Yeah.
I think it was Greg Williamson. I'm not exactly sure. Don't quote me on that, but
Greg's
he was
listening. Please correct us. Yeah. We know
he
Greg
was
well. Yeah.
definitely like, if it wasn't him, he
Yeah.
was like number two or number three in this whole Finmo story. But long story short, they had a need as a team. They built a tool and then realized this could be bigger. Same thing with Kevin from Kevin
Kevin
Deere.
Deere. Yeah.
He's
He built
he
Auto, right? Was it Auto?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, auto.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I've been in the industry for a while. I remember working with Butler Mortgage, who's a longtime client of ours, and they had me demo auto like 12 years
Oh
ago
yeah,
now.
really?
And
Was Kevin doing the demo at that
yeah,
time? Yeah, it
yeah.
was Kevin.
And
Yeah,
that's how
okay.
he
Yeah,
first met me. And
yeah,
long story short, now he's gone on a journey where Auto, I believe, was purchased by Velocity, and then Velocity turned Auto and Marlboro Sterling into Velocity. It was actually DLC that bought it. So, anyways, where I'm going with that is when people have a need, they look to build it themselves sometimes. And it doesn't have to be a brokerage to help recruit people. It could just be operationally more efficient to build something yourself. And so we've seen that as well. And similar things. I mean, the probably the advantage here is most people in this core team are either salaried or all on the same page, so you don't really have to sell them the tool per
yeah.
se.
Incentives are super aligned, right? It's like,
Yeah,
hey, we're doing this. I even know, yeah, some people. There's a client we're working with right now, and he's using Creator, which is kind of like Zoho's no code tool. You know who I'm talking about. I think I was telling you about this earlier.
oh
And
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
in any case, yeah. So he's going out and using this, and so he's using it. So I think, yeah, the advantage of it is, hey, everyone's rowing in the same direction. But also, I think in the case with this particular gentleman, the benefit is immediate, right? It's not, hey, I'm making a bet that my agents are going to like it. It's like, I have a need, I'm going to build it,
True.
and the ROI is going to be right there for me. So hey, I can do that calculation. It's less risky. I would think, put it that way, right? When you do it for your team, for your own team. Another kind of cool one. We'll do a shout out to one of our, I guess, people in our network, a gentleman named Will. He made a tool called Broker Engine, and it's a big tool in Australia now. And but it started the same way. He was working as actually a marketing consultant for a top producer. They had a need, they built it, and the rest is history. So I'm just kind of noticing this now as we're talking. It's like a lot of those team-based ones are the ones that end up turning
Really
into
killing
something.
it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll turn it. Maybe that's just the ones we know. Maybe there's a million team-based tools that tried and didn't get anywhere, or just stayed within the team and we don't know about it. But yeah, I guess it's those team-based ones where I guess that iteration of building the tool is very quick, that allows them to build these things that can be scalable, right? So
it might be
yeah,
like, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, but
yeah,
maybe with the team ones, they're much more focused on solving an immediate
right,
problem, operationally making things more efficient, less so how do I keep a broker engaged or how do I increase the barriers to exit or
yeah.
whatever.
Well, yeah,
The
and like it's like the lean startup, right, where you want quick feedback, right? That's the
true.
key to building it. So it's like I'm not going to build something and then give it to an agent and say, "Do you like it?" It's like I'm going to build it and I'm going to try it on my very next file. Okay, this sucks. Okay, let's fix it. And that iteration cycle is just so much quicker, right? When
Yeah.
it's your own team. So yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about, I guess, why you should do it. I think why people start to do it, and then some success cases. I guess some mixed reviews on the brokerage side, but maybe some success cases on the team side. So maybe the listener right now is like, yeah, sounds awesome. Like let's do it. I want to do that. I want to go through those quick iteration cycle and build something. And so I guess what are the words to the wise? And I think you're particularly qualified, Massimo, to maybe answer this, just because back in your consulting days I think you try to do this, right? We talked a little bit about, I think, in our online application episode, but I think you actually went out and built or tried to build an online application for a team. You were at the team level, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I was testing some Finmo stuff today and I was going through it and it's saying, how long have you lived at this address? Do you live with this person? What's your income? I'm like, God, I remember coding this stuff,
But
I should say. So,
yes, yeah,
anyways,
good
yes, I
catch.
do have
Yeah.
experience with it. And I mean, probably the most general answer, and maybe not obvious, but it will be, it's just like, it's always harder than it looks. And it always takes more
Yeah.
time and money than it looks. And so there's a reason why some companies make it, and it's because they got it right, whether it's the UI, like the interface, or the price, or the security, or reliability. But long story short, when we did that project, we realized, okay, it's not going to take X. It's going to, in terms of time, it's going to take X times five. It's not going to take,
Easily, eh? It was five
yeah,
times. Yeah.
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 It's not going to take X in terms of cost. It's going to take X times three. Then when we got there, I think I mentioned this, but we released the tool and the client liked it. But then Finmo came out and we're like, well, this is shit compared to Finmo. So
Yeah.
the, anyways, it's that maybe that's something else to keep in mind. It's like you're probably not alone in thinking this is a good idea, and there may be other guys actually really pushing to make it for the market. But um, the main point I have there is it's hard and it takes a long
Yeah.
time and it's not easy. So
Well, yeah, maybe just to unpack that a little bit, there was kind of 2 points to make. One is just time and cost. We say internally, if we're going to do something, you think it's going to take 2 hours, always double it.
yeah,
And that's only with internal things. Imagine now working with other stakeholders and doing different things. That's easily going to three, four, 5 times, like you said. So that's point number one. And then, yeah, the point number two is just really the competition side of things. So, okay, I'm going out and I'm building. I think this is going to be a cool idea. Is it a unique idea? Are you just building a better mousetrap? Is by the time you build that better mousetrap, does the existing mousetrap add all these features that makes yours obsolete? It's tricky and it requires that really sharp mind of okay, what's going on in the market, or I guess maybe not understanding of what's going on in that market so you can make the best decisions of how you want to build this up and how it can actually really truly provide value for you. So yeah, I mean for the cost thing, I think so. Yeah, you built that one, which was interesting. And then when I joined the team, um, we were approached by another really big person and said, "Hey, I'll pay you." I think it was like 250,000. I think it was right to
yeah, yeah,
actually go out and build. I think it was another online application. That was when people were really doing that. And we said no, just because we knew probably even though in our head we were like, hey, maybe this would cost 100, 150. It's like, okay, well, you 5 times that and you get to over 500,000 very quickly, right? And so we were cautious. And that was just our experience, and other people might have other experiences, but that's just kind of our takeaway from it was like, hey, this you're signing up for a lot of costs, but also just the blood, sweat, and tears of it too. Because like anything, there's just so many road bumps, so many things you didn't anticipate, and you got to fight through it. And so it's almost like a startup in a sense. You hear this advice all the time where it's like, you got to be passionate about it, right? This thing, if you're going to take it on and really build this piece of software that you're going to use, what you're going to anticipate for the next 10 years, you got to really love that software, right? You got to really either be passionate about the features or really understand the benefits that it's going to achieve for you and your business. Because if either one of those aren't true, it's just going to be a failed experiment because there are going to be those road bumps that are going to come along.
yeah. And I mean, one thing to ask yourself in a lot of these scenarios, and most of these successful use cases had someone, like in the Will scenario, he was more tech focused
Right.
versus his co-founder. In the Finmo scenario, I could almost bet Greg didn't write a line of code. No knock on him, but like you know what I mean. So like
Sure. Yeah.
he had a technical person. Um, Same with us. So I mean, in short, remember what you are in some ways, where it's like, okay, if you're
That's
a
a good
really
point
good
too.
mortgage
Yeah.
broker, maybe don't try to be a tech person while being a mortgage broker. And so it's just a variable
Yeah.
you should think of. Like it's not for everyone. Maybe it works for you, but I mean, we even made that decision with our product, right? Like our
Yeah. Yeah.
product is built on a very large software, and we looked at it. It's like, okay, well, these guys are spending 200-300 million a year making sure their product is progressing.
Right.
How are we going to Who are we to assume we could spend more than that and make a better CRM? The CRM market is a very tough one to compete in if you're building your own. And so, anyways, that was our
Yeah.
choice. Um, and we also took into account like we're not DevOps guys, which are like databases and
Yeah.
security
I
and
was going
stuff.
to
So we're
talk
like,
about DevOps. Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
Well,
Yeah,
no, no.
because
I
you're
mean,
living in it.
yeah, I'm
Well, you're
living in a
more
bit,
than
but
me. Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it is very much like you're saying at the beginning of the episode, which is like, I think you saw a realtor billboard and you're like, hey, I could be a realtor. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and that's what I think a lot of, unless you're going in eyes wide open, you have the tech background. A lot of people think about software. Hey, this software is so basic. It doesn't do what it needs to do. I could build it better. And maybe in some senses, you have a better design of what a software could look like, and you feel, hey, I could just outsource some development and get there. But there's just so much more. There's, product, there's marketing, there's support, and DevOps. DevOps is the pain I'm feeling right now, which is basically, okay, I'm going to release it, and I'm going to make sure it's reliable, and I'm going to make sure that no one can hack it, and I'm going to do backups, and I'm going to do all these different things that you don't even think of off the top, right? When you're clicking that button on the app and saying, hey, this button should be bigger than it is now because it's so important. Those all that whole list, and there's probably a much longer list of all the other things that go into that, right? If you can just say, hey, I'm gonna go out and just make the button bigger and steal this huge part of the market, I think you got to check yourself and say, okay, well, what else goes into actually serving this up and doing it? Like we were saying earlier, I think that when we look at the success cases, right? The autos, the Finmos, the broker engine. It's the people who were able to make that leap, right? And so whether it was, and honestly, if you look at all three of those people I just mentioned, actually, I'm just thinking out loud, none of them are brokering anymore, right?
Yeah.
So they made
Yeah,
a
true.
conscious, yeah, none of them are, right? And they started as brokers. And so they all made that conscious decision to say, hey, I'm going to stop doing A because B is actually going to be a full-time job, and they dedicated towards it. And I mean, it is a full-time job. I know those people, and they're insanely busy doing a ton of great work, but it really is, right? And so I think that's something, a really good thing to keep in mind. It's like, hey, if you look at those success cases, those people are now software guys, and maybe that's what you want. And if it is, great. I think encourage everyone to go out and do it. But if you feel no, just be a side hustle and I make some money on the side, I don't know if that's a recipe for success.
Agreed. Yeah. I think this gives you enough
Yeah,
info to make kind of your own decisions. There's not one right way, but
yeah,
depending on the situations, there's often a better one in my opinion. So I lean more towards the check if you can buy it and customize it rather than build it completely. But if there
yeah,
is something very unique and the IP is going to be very important,
yeah.
then you go down the other road. But you need the technical people. You're not doing it yourself.
Right.
And then you get into the whole raising money and all that stuff that we
Give
won't
away,
get into.
yeah,
Yeah,
build a corporation and give away a bunch of equity, and yep. Well, yeah, I think there's two sides to this, right? I think there's, okay, build it. If I want to build it just for me and my team, I think there's that, and I think that can be an equation that's not easy, but easier. Where it's say, okay, I can go out, I think I can build this. It cost me a couple 100,000. I kind of have a roadmap. There's some developers that I know that could maybe do this. I know there's going to be a ton of speed bumps along the way, but those are costs that I'm going to take on and is what it is. But I know over a 3 or 5 year period of time, I'm going to make my money back. Right? Yeah, I'm going to spend 200 grand, but by year 4, I get that back, and year 5 is gravy based on the amount of time that I've saved or fees that I've foregone by going out and buying someone else's software. So if it's 100% for yourself, you have the scale and kind of that forward looking to say, okay, yeah, I think there's an ROI here. I think there's merit in that. And like I said, we know brokerages who have done that with success. So I think all for it. But yeah, if you really want to, if you're looking at it more of like a pride and I'm going to build this solution and go to market with it, man, you gotta you gotta really have the chops, the technical chops, either in terms of partnerships, people that you work with, or even yourself, because it's a huge thing, and it always will be, right? I think that people see these tech billionaires, Zuckerberg, and these people, and say, "Hey, I want to do that. I can do it." But there's a reason not everyone's Zuckerberg, right? It's tough.
agreed.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how I would wrap it up. I guess any final comments or thoughts for the viewers, Massimo? This will
Maybe
be the last time we're using Massimo and Tom, depending on, I don't know who's going to
uh,
comment for us.
on the
Yeah, but
thousands of comments. Yeah. No, I think just on that last point with the Zuckerberg thing, you think of him, you think of what he did, and one of the things Tom mentioned earlier is you really need passion. This guy was like coding Facebook in his dorm room,
yeah, yeah,
quitting one of the best schools in America to go do this. So if you don't have that for this tool, maybe
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
check yourself. Yeah. So yeah.
No, completely, completely. And yeah, Zuckerberg was like, I mean, him specifically, I'm talking. He was like a unicorn because he was a technical guy, and he was a business guy, and
Yeah,
that combination is just so rare. I think without going down, you can think of other things like the Reddit guys. Those are technical guys. They aren't business guys. Or like the Uber guy. I think he was more, really good for starting it, but not good at scale because he was just breaking rules at the beginning, and you can't you can't break rules when you do that. So, it's a very very specific skill set, and I think it's yeah what you said of having the passion, but then also having a really good awareness of yourself and what you're good at, and where you would need a partner to fill in those gaps. Well, we'll leave it there. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to this. Hope it was useful. If you have any comments, or maybe, hey, if you've built an app yourself and you think, hey, actually, these guys are wrong, it is super easy and I killed it and it's saving me a ton of money each year and I'm going to go to market with it. Love to hear it. And I'd love to have you maybe on the podcast to chat about it. So feel free to leave those comments. But thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
So yeah.